Hey everybody. What is this, a PvP commentary? I don't make those, do I? No, I don't. It's just not my thing. Not that I don't enjoy them, I actually watch a handful of different PvP commenters. The main one being Martyr's Brigade. He's probably my favorite of the commentators. Mostly because, well, A, he does a great job at presenting his topics, B, he's very thorough about them, which, if you know anything about my lore videos, I enjoy thoroughness, and C, I find myself agreeing with most of what he has to say. I would say I probably agree with him more often than I do any other commentator. But enough about that. This isn't a video about Martyr's Brigade. It's a video with PvP commentary from Hazel Fiber. But why am I making this video? Some of you might be aware, though hopefully not too many of you, that this very footage you're seeing was already uploaded once before. And it was uploaded with music playing over top the sound effects of the game. Now, it's what I usually prefer doing if I'm going to upload PvP footage, but I got a warning, or a flag, whatever they call it, from YouTube saying that some of the songs were copyrighted, and that my video would not be available in some countries. Now, I'm not going to go on a big tirade against YouTube because it's both fruitless and a waste of everybody's time, but it would be nice if YouTube told me at least what countries my video wouldn't be available in. Assuming, because I'd use some English-American music, you know what I mean, that the video wouldn't be available in America, I just decided to take it down, and that I would record a commentary over top of it instead. I meant to do that same day, but I didn't get around to it. Not because I'm lazy, I had other stuff to do. Alright, without any further preamble, let's get into it. Because with this hopefully being my only PvP commentary video, I'm hoping to catch every subject and at least speak on it a little bit. So first, the speed of the combat and the hit detection. It's actually the best in this game compared to the 3 Souls games that I've seen. It's closest to Demon Souls, I'd say. I've always considered Demon Souls to have the best hit detection between PvP players. Definitely better than both Dark Souls games. That's no contest at all. But I think Bloodborne is better than even Demon Souls. Almost every hit feels exactly on. Even in this video, you'll see a couple of cases where, maybe I didn't get hit, but I'm pretty sure I did. Thus far, in my playing of Bloodborne, I don't have any complaints about lag hits or phantom hits or any of that nonsense. And speaking of connecting to other players, despite what a lot of people say, I have had the best success in connecting to other players in Bloodborne. It's maybe a little better in Dark Souls 2, but it's hard to say at this time. They seem very even to me. I know that's counter to what a lot of people say, a lot of people complain about the connectivity, but it has been fast and fluid for me. And by fluid, I mean the loading times as well. They go extremely fast. Not quite the speed of Dark Souls 2, but not that far off. Really not that far off. This is post the latest patch, so that's probably why. I didn't really do any PvPing before the latest patch. I was invaded in Mensis, of course, but I never recorded that, and it wasn't really PvP. It was me just trying to get through the game. Alright, and now for the big 4 topics. The first one being weapons that I don't really have any complaints about. Because, as I'll say in my upcoming review, all the weapons seem to have their place. This isn't like even Demon Souls and both Dark Souls games where a lot of weapons feel less than top tier. Every weapon in Bloodborne is worth using. And that's quite an improvement. Now, there's not many weapons, so your selection is limited by comparison, but there are still plenty enough weapons that you can build a variety of builds, and they can all compete against each other. In fact, I dare say that Bloodborne is the most balanced game of the 4. I think that goes without question, actually. In all 3 Souls games, there were weapons that were definitely better than the others, and to not use them, you were purposely gimping yourself. Now, that doesn't mean you will necessarily lose any matches, or every match at least, but it does mean that you were putting yourself at a disadvantage against people who did use those top-tier weapons. And that's not the case in Bloodborne. Every weapon is worth using. They still need to patch a couple of them, but most of them, for now, can compete with all the others. And then on the flip side of the weapons are the guns. I actually like the guns. I could have sworn that I would have hated them, and I vowed before the game came out to never use them. I thought, oh, I can get through these games without them, and you can get through the game without it, but that's not the point. The point is their utility, fun, and advantage in combat. They work wonderfully. They are the best parry tool of all three games, which the other games where obviously you have your shields or parry swords. Or really, you could use any weapon in the two Dark games to parry, but most of them weren't worth it compared to the shields and parry weapons. Anyway, in Bloodborne, the guns work a hell of a lot better, and they're a hell of a lot easier to manage. It just makes more sense when you're supposed to parry, and that applies to PvP combat as well. But at the same time, it's not so easy. It doesn't give you such an advantage. Just parrying someone to death doesn't give them an automatic win. It really doesn't. In Bloodborne, you can recover, vial, attack, get your blood back through the regain. Everything works great. And the guns don't act as a counter to that. They're a very fluid part of the game. Especially if you make a Bloodtinge build, you can even use them offensively instead of just a parry weapon, and that works as well. But it doesn't feel overpowered. Now, I don't have any experience with the cannon, personally. I mean, I've used it in my main game where I'm overleveled to try and do everything, collect everything, but I haven't used it in any PvP combat. I imagine it seems a little cheap if you get hit by it, but to get hit by it seems like you would have to make a very grave mistake and it would be your fault. And I also mentioned vials, which is another topic when it comes to the combat itself. I'm not sure how much they disappoint me or don't disappoint me. They do heal you, obviously. They're blood vials, that's what they do. And you can use them extremely quick. Now, you can parry someone when they're using a blood vial, but that's pretty rare. That's going to be very hard to do because it's even faster than any attack animation. But here's the thing. If you use blood vials, you're not necessarily ruining PvP. Now, I prefer not to use them. You'll see in this video that I don't use them unless I either get ganked or I'm facing more than 1v1. Those are the only times I prefer to use them. If something else really cheap had happened, which I can't even think of an example, but if it had, I may have vialed as well then, but that isn't the case. I had a lot more fun in the fights where I refused to use a vial and fought to either the death of me or the opponent. There's also something to be said about vials extending the length of a PvP match. Now, the counter-argument to that is, why would you want to extend it? You don't want to just get the kill and finish the match? Well, yes, but I also want to enjoy the fight. This isn't real life where I need to just win and move on, otherwise I'm dead. This is a video game. Extending the fight's actually kind of a cool concept. It's not a mob, it's not a boss, it's another player. Extending that fight actually speaks pretty well to me. And hopefully it does to everyone else as well. But regardless of that, even if you don't want to use blood vials and someone else does, your opponent does, if that upsets you and you want to make the match feel fair again, you can always just vial yourself. Whether or not that's, what you want to do is up to each player. I don't have a big problem if I'm invading someone especially, they use vials to try and survive. Now, if they're just standing around for PvP fights, that's one thing. But if they're trying to get through the level, I will be especially understanding of them using vials to try and kill me. Now that brings us to the runes, which are basically the rings of Bloodborne. Let me be clear about this up front. I really, really, really like that you can only equip them in the dream, and that your choices are solidified when you go out into the field. I really like that. I hated, I should say, back when I would be playing Dark Souls, Demon Souls, and Dark Souls 2, and I would be facing an opponent and they would swap their rings. Now, it's not that it gives them that big an advantage, but you should have a build and have at least a set character for that fight that you want to fight with. If you're swapping shit out left and right, you're not really dedicating yourself to that build. You're not giving it a fair chance and giving your opponent a fair chance to see if they can kill it. So I am extremely glad that runes are only equipped in the dream. Thank God. Thank Gwyn, I should say. That said, there is something to be said about having runes equipped specifically for getting through a certain part of the campaign or farming, and then being invaded and being screwed because you don't have the runes that give you, say, more bullets or health back from bullets, or from visceral attacks. it does seem a little screwy that you're just sort of stuck while this invader, who has all the runes he exactly wants to kill you equipped, that you just have to sit there with your farming runes and can't do anything about it. Did I say runes a couple of times? Whatever, runes. You guys know what I mean. But, regardless of that, it does make sense that, you know, it's an invasion game. I should say it's a Souls game, it's a Bloodborne game. You're going to be invaded and killed. That is part of the game. So, the fact that you can be invaded while you have crappy runes equipped, to mostly my response to that is, oh well, suck it up. Now, I'm not one of those get good guys, but the game is what it is, and they expect you to die. Obviously, they expect you to die. And that brings us lastly to gems, one of my least favorite parts about Bloodborne. It's not that the gems themselves are bad. It's that if you don't get them, you are gimping yourself. There are gems out there that'll make players extremely stronger than you. Extremely. They'll kill you in a couple of hits while you'll have to whack away on them because you don't have the same gems. And to get these gems requires a shit ton of time investment. I have, in my effort to get 15 Tomb Mold 5s, I have now gone through, fully explored and fully killed 9 Depth 5 dungeons, and I still don't have the 15 that I need. And it's driving me crazy, because I know this current build that I'm trying to build needs some of these gems that I can get, and I just can't get there. It's so much time, and I only get to play an hour or two a day if I'm lucky. So the PvP in Bloodborne is a little screwed up when it comes to the gems, because you have to have them, but the time required to get them basically means that you don't have a full-time job, and that blows ass. Or at the very least that you don't have other stuff going on. Now, I don't actually knock that. Don't get the wrong idea, anyone who hears that. If you spend most of your time playing video games, first off, I'm fucking jealous, and second off, I don't judge you at all. That's fine. We're all gonna die anyway, so just do what you want. I mean die in real life, not Bloodborne, so just do what you want. But I don't like that not having these gems means that you're basically unable to compete at the top level. Well, that's about it for my PvP commentary. If you can even call it that. It was more of a PvP review, but it's the best I'm going to do, because, as I said, it's just not my thing. I will probably have more PvP videos up, not necessarily in the near future, it's hard to say. I'm currently working on the Bloodborne review, and then I'm going to finally jump into the Bloodborne lore, but I plan to do some PvP in the meantime when I, need a relax break or a stress break after work. So we'll see what happens. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you didn't come to this video expecting some ultra serious commentary and, enlightenment on the view of PvP and the community of Souls, because that's just not quite what it is. I'm just not that guy. I suggest looking to other PvP commenters for that kind of information. And now that I am done, please enjoy these last minute or two of PvP footage. I hope you guys enjoyed this build. I'd have to say that so far the Bloodtinge build is probably my favorite, just because it gives you that edge from a distance that no other build's going to have.